Hi, Cancer. Welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for January of 2023. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kell Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
I'm Julia Mijas in San Francisco, California.
Right now, let's take a look at January for you, Cancer. I'd like to start with two of our favorite asteroid goddesses, which are Juno right here and Ceres right here. Juno begins the month in your 9th house, finishing out her transit through Pisces, which has been going on since July. So I'm actually not going to say anything about it because I've been talking about it in every horoscope since July. So having said enough, I want to show you that she's about to change signs. And moving into Aries, she enters into your 10th house. Now, wherever Juno goes, she brings this networking sensibility. She's the asteroid goddess of marriage and committed relationship. And so she has to do with partnerships of all kinds, including a partnership that you might have with somebody that you love or are married to, or a business partner, perhaps. She's very comfortable here in the 10th house, which is the domain of business. And I think this is really where her business acumen shines. So when Juno is traveling through the 10th house, which she's going to be doing for a couple of months to come, she brings this partnerly sensibility, and so a tendency to partner, collaborate, and relate with other people, and to look for the people who should connect to each other, and then do a little bit of matchmaking, a little bit of strengthening the social fabric in your workplace. And that's a really great use of this Juno transit. She's going to be moving faster and faster. We'll cruise through the 10th house and be entering the 11th house in the next few months. Then the other one that I want to tell you about is Ceres, traveling along through your 4th house this month. And she's going to be here for a long time because she's about to go retrograde. Juno's just finished. Ceres is about to start. So Ceres is going to go retrograde in early February, and she brings her characteristic themes to do with the physical world. So food, body, and money. And she's bringing them to the 4th house, which is your domain of home, family, domestic life, heritage, and roots. So this could be a really great transit for looking into the diet that your family is eating and how you can adjust that for better health of all family members. Now, bearing in mind that Ceres is about to go retrograde next month and fairly early in the month, she is going to be slowing down during this month. And so it's really not too early to start getting ahead of this, because these things might get pretty tangled up next month when Ceres does go retrograde. So at that point, you might find, oh my gosh, I've got to change how I cook for my family or how we eat. You know, somebody's got a health concern or different dietary needs. And so we've got to change this whole picture up. So don't wait for it to become a tangled mess next month. Get in ahead of that early this month. It might also have to do with money, another very, very big theme with Ceres. So don't wait until next month when your household finances get into an uproar. Start now to gather those receipts and figure out how you're going to handle taxes. Let's get a jump on that good stuff. So starting next month, when Ceres goes retrograde, it's going to be a financial rebalancing period, and we'll tell you about that as it's approaching. Hey, Julia, what is the news of the month for Venus, Mercury, and Mars in the horoscope for Cancer?
There's a lot going on, which I'm excited to tell you about. First of all, Cancer, Venus is moving pretty quickly. She's going to go through 3 different houses of yours this month, and she's the planet that represents relationships as well as art and beauty and pleasure. So she's only spending January 1st in your 7th house. She mainly spent December in the 7th, and the 7th house represents your romantic relationship. So it's probably been a very nice time with your partner partner during the holiday season. And maybe you've had a chance to go out and date new people too. Now, by January 2nd, Venus enters your 8th house. This house is a financial house. It represents the money you share with other people, like your family or your partner, as well as the money you share with institutions. So that could be investments, mortgages, 401ks, loans, that type of stuff. So with Venus in the 8th for most of January, it's a good time to gain a little extra money, maybe through other people. Maybe that means your partner gets a raise and shares it with you. Maybe that means that some crypto is doing pretty well for you this month. The 8th house is also a very intimate and physically amorous place. So this might be an exciting month to explore your sexuality, either with your partner or somebody else who's interested in it. Then by January 26th, Venus enters your 9th house. The 9th house is a house of travel. It's a house of education. And with Venus in the 9th, if you haven't gone on a trip yet this holiday season and you still have some work days or some vacation days at work, this could be a really nice time to plan or go on a trip. Since the 9th house is also a house of education, maybe you're interested in going back to school or enrolling in a workshop or learning something new to really expand your horizons during the cycle. Then I also want to mention Mercury, who's been retrograde in December and starts the month retrograde in your 7th house. Again, this is the house of your relationship. And the 7th house also rules contractors. So when Mercury is retrograde in the 7th, this can be a time of miscommunications with your partner, as well as maybe having to rehire, maybe people you hire for advice. So this contractors could be anything from a doctor or a lawyer or a social media consultant. And with Mercury retrograde, you really might want to get a second opinion now. Now, on January 7th, Mercury conjoins the sun exactly while retrograde, and we call that Lesser Epiphany Day. And that's versus Greater Epiphany Day, which is going to happen a little later. That's when Mercury conjoins the sun while direct. But anyway, any Epiphany Day is a time of insights and revelations. And since this is happening in your 7th house, you might be having some insights into what's going on in your relationship. Maybe something's been bugging you. Maybe you guys haven't been sort of on the same page with communication, as well as maybe insights into who you should hire next, or maybe something about somebody you've already hired to give you advice too. Then by January 18th, Mercury finally goes direct in this house. And, it takes about a week for Mercury to start to get to its full speed in the sky. So certainly by the end of the month, this whole annoying retrograde cycle will be over, which is really nice. And another retrograde cycle that's going to be over this month is Mars retrograde. And that's an even bigger deal because Mars only goes retrograde about once every 2 years, and usually, or definitely for a lot longer than a Mercury retrograde. So Mars has been retrograde in your 12th house for a number of months now. The 12th is a house of isolation. It's the house of the subconscious. So that means things which are very much a part of your mind, but you might not always be aware of. So Mars retrograde in the 12th house, since the 12th house is a house of isolation, you might have had to redo something about your isolation in your life, since Mars is a planet of action. So maybe this means that you've been spending way too much time alone and you're like, I have to get out there and I need to connect with more people. Or maybe you've been overly connecting with everybody, especially during the holidays, and you're like, whoa, I need to go back and spend some more time on my own. Mars retrograde in the 12th can also mean that you get irritated about something which you thought you were fine. You kind of go back over your anger and it just kind of comes out of the blue, sort of pops up from your subconscious. Maybe it catches you by surprise a little bit. Now, by January 12th, Mars will go direct, and it'll take Mars a couple of weeks to kind of get back up to its full speed. But this means that we're going to start the year with a lot less frustrations, a lot less irritability than we were dealing with late in 2022. And that's pretty good news.
Yeah, indeed. I wish it could come earlier, like 2 years, but I'll take it. So there are a couple of moons I want to talk about. The first one on January 6th is the full moon in Cancer, which falls in your first house, Cancer, of course, and opposite the sun in Capricorn with Mercury here in the 7th house. And it's a pretty emotional moon. It's a pretty passionate and strong feeling and intuitive moon. It's a very nurturing moon as well. We're calling it hard work and deep care. The hard work side, of course, is Mercury here in Capricorn with the sun. Mercury efforting, to think clearly and be rational while retrograde, which can be very frustrating, and in stoical and sometimes resigned Capricorn. But opposite this, we have a warm and lovely Pallas Athena, goddess of wisdom, with this moon. And so there's a real balancing act here. Do I be hard on myself? Do I let myself have my feelings? Do I nurture and take care of myself? Or, do I tough it out? And so that's the balancing act going on here. And there's this square to Chiron in the middle of it all, which does suggest that this moon could be a trigger for some old wounds to come to the surface. Most especially, that wounding may show up in your domain of career or authority. In other words, Chiron has been traveling along through your 10th house of career for several years and probably has another 7 years to go. Several, not seven, several, total of 7. And as Chiron does this, he's bringing up old wounding for you about authority. Like, am I an authority the way that I want to be? And do people, respect me? And how's my reputation? How is my career going forward? And oh, by the way, how is my relationship with my father? And what does that have to do with all this? So Chiron has been, creating a pretty deep healing, but it's a moon like this that can really trigger a lot of feeling coming up around it. And I think that it's important to pay attention to the date this moon is happening so that you don't find yourself expressing emotions, especially around work, that can compromise that reputation that you've been working on so very hard. I do want to add that Uranus brings some serious help from the domain of friendship and community, and that can help to ease out the tensions of this moon. Uranus forms a beautiful sextile to the moon and a trine to the sun, and so Uranus is here to help. And you'll find out a lot more about these moons in the playlist that we made for this month, January 2023, on our YouTube channel, Pandora Astrology. The next thing I want to talk about is the seasonal change happening on January 20th or thereabouts, when the sun leaves Capricorn and moves into Aquarius. The sun spends most of the month in Capricorn, but I talked about that last month, and now I'm going to talk about it moving into your 8th house, which, as we always say, is a house of sharing our bodies in sexuality, sharing our hearts in intimate, vulnerable conversation with each other, and sharing our finances, in a marriage, perhaps in investing. So when the sun enters into a new house, it's really good to bring your conscious awareness to that house. Now, this being a house of mysteries, really, it's a kind of it's not the sort of terrain that we are really comfortable shining a light into, but when the sun comes here, it's a really good idea to do that anyway. Bring a flashlight or a lantern into the domain of the monies that you share with a partner, whether that's a business partner or perhaps a marital partner, and really look at what is happening in this domain, bring it into consciousness, bring it into full awareness, and figure out how you can bring more vitality and life to this region in a good way that works for everybody involved. Then shortly after the sun enters the 8th house, the moon joins it here in the second moon of the month, which is a new moon in Aquarius. It's really a very social moon. We're calling it Nurture the Tribe. And we're calling it that because of the involvement of Ceres, which brings in the themes of nurturing, mostly through the medium of food. And the fact that it's in Aquarius, itself, which is a very social sign. And Jupiter helps with that, and so does Juno. So this is a moon that's really very festive. It's really very playful. It's really very light. And it's kind of funny to think about what it could mean for you, because it brings the two luminaries and sheds a lot of light into your financial realm. And so I would think that this is a really great moon for you to participate in some form of fundraising. And I'm not talking about you necessarily being, the one on stage saying, hey, give this cause all of your money, people in the audience. Although Jupiter in your 10th house might actually make you comfortable with that. But I do want to say that the fact that this moon lands in the house of shared finances and investments could suggest that it's a really good moon for drawing money towards yourself, towards a cause that you believe in, which might be a humanitarian one, might be an ecological one, due to Ceres connection here, might also be a social one, because of Juno's involvement. So there's really any number of reasons why you might want to, raise money for a cause. But I would say that that is definitely benefited under this moon, because a new moon is for planting seeds of new beginnings. And we really like to do that during a moon like this. Now, Juno's involvement in this moon really amps up the social nature of it, and also the leadership nature of it, Juno being with Jupiter here in that 10th house of career and reputation. That's all for today. We love making these horoscope videos for you, Cancer. And if you love them too, please do hit that like button, because it really matters to us when you tell YouTube how you feel. Let your friends know about our horoscopes too. Have a gorgeous January, and we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye.
Bye-bye.